Good afternoon. I will now call to order the afternoon session of the regular meeting of the Board of Lane County Commissioners for Tuesday, April 23rd. Welcome back to the board and staff. Welcome to folks in Harris Hall for the first time today. We have on our afternoon agenda, first up, an item from Public Works. This is the third reading on ordinance PA number 1391 in the matter of amending the Eugene Springfield Metropolitan Area General Plan and adopting the River Road Santa Clara Neighborhood Plan. This is County File number 509 PA 23-05532, City File number MA 23-5. PM and NBA from February 27, 24 and March 12, 24. And I will welcome to the table Jared Bowder, our senior planner from Lane County, and Terry Harding, principal planner from City of Eugene. Good afternoon. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Chair. Hello, Commissioners. Today's meeting is the culmination of a long community planning process, and this is the board's opportunity to act on the River Road Santa Clara Neighborhood Plan through ordinance number PA 1390. Last night, the Eugene City Council voted to approve two separate ordinances related to this project. One ordinance to adopt the neighborhood plan and another to adopt the neighborhood-specific Eugene Code amendments. The county does not have a role in considering the city-specific code amendments, but a quick update is that at their April 10th work session, the Eugene City Council made a motion to modify the proposed neighborhood-specific code amendments so that the new prohibited uses, height limits, and the design and transition standards of the C2 zone do not apply to the River Avenue area due to its industrial and commercial character. Additionally, in response to issues and concerns raised by the public, last night after voting to approve the neighborhood plan and the Eugene Code amendments, the City Council made motions to hold a work session before January 1st of 2025 to discuss possible options for addressing on-street parking issues and to discuss voluntary annexation in the River Road Santa Clara areas. And with that, I'll conclude by stating that staff's recommending option 1 from the memorandum for today's meeting, that the board move to approve ordinance number PA 1391 as presented, and that Terry Harding with the City of Eugene is here to answer any specific questions about the final city actions that were taken relating to this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you want to?
Thank you.
Oh, great.
Thank you, board and staff. That was a wonderful summary, Jared. I'm so happy to be here to answer any more questions you might have. Jared really said everything, so I don't want to repeat, but I'm definitely available to answer questions and just express our intent to continue coordinating at the staff level as we bring forward these ongoing issues that are important to everyone in River Road and Santa Clara. So parking, voluntary annexation strategies, or strategies, I would say, are things that take multiple departments and multiple agencies to work through. And they're already on our radar, and we're happy to share through staff and up to you information that's prepared for the council for their work sessions and report back to you on how those conversations are going. Thank you.
Thank you. That is brief. And so if there are questions or comments from the board, it's time for that. Commissioner Farr and then Commissioner Sanaga.
And I will defer, Commissioner Senator, if you should go first. This is your district.
No.
Very good. It used to be my district. So we've worked on a lot of the issues for a long, long time out there, and you mentioned parking. We all remember what happened with Echo Apartments and the street annexation that occurred subsequent to that, the roads, not the properties. But it didn't really seem to settle the parking. And I'm curious, people out there are still kind of stinging from that. They're also stinging a bit from some upcoming development that's not requiring enough, what they feel is enough parking for for what's going to take place in multifamily units that are being currently built. How's that happening? What is happening with that? And why are we doing one parking spot for every 4 units in one development?
Sure. There's a couple parts to your question.
Yeah.
As far as requirements for off-street parking, so parking associated with development, the council did approve a parking ordinance to implement the climate-friendly and equitable communities rules, and no off-street parking at all is required for new development going forward. The parking continues to be built, and we're seeing that in multifamily all over the city, but that is not a requirement in the code any longer. So we'll become even more dependent, I believe, on strategies to manage the right-of-way and manage the impacts from development as it occurs. And I believe that is why our council was so interested in bringing back the parking issue, which is not just land use code, but also our parking staff and transportation staff and county departments to kind of work together to address it from different angles.
Okay. I'm not certain that satisfies my concerns as other, residents' concerns as they're reflected through me, because it doesn't take into account the people who actually have residences there already who will be impacted. Because we all know this, unless some weird atmospheric thing has happened, people with apartments do have cars, and they will park them someplace. And I'm presuming that the council is highly attuned to that, and they are aware that much of the parking that happened with Echo wasn't inside the city limits, it was outside the city limits, and so it became an issue for the county to mitigate. And it was a real issue for a while, some people put their garbage cans on the street so people couldn't park there. People parked on lawns, and it continues to be an issue. So I guess I don't sit in on city council meetings anymore, but I would hope that they consider that while the climate-friendly element is absolutely essential and it's something that we all support, understanding that there are people living there currently who are going to be dramatically affected, whose children walking to school are going to be dramatically affected, whose kids riding in the neighborhood on the weekends are going to be dramatically affected by the lack of parking in multifamily developments that are being proposed and built out there. I know you're aware of that, and I know I'm not saying something that's not been said to you before, but that flag is still at the pole as far as I'm concerned. We need to keep a close eye on it because it does affect county residents, and until we do a full annexation out there, we will have people living directly across the street from developments inside of the city of Eugene who live in the county. Therefore, the EPD has no jurisdiction, nor do they want it, and the Sheriff's Department with one deputy per, well, how many square miles, it simply does not have the capacity to address the parking issues in that area. I'm not telling you something new, I know that, so thanks, Terry.
Commissioner Seneca.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And thank you, Commissioner Ford. That was one of the questions. The second one is, can we get a little more in depth into the building height restrictions or lack thereof? Because I know that's been a huge concern of somebody being in their backyard and having a high rise next to them and no privacy. Where exactly did we land on that?
Sure. We proposed, the proposal that went through the planning commissions was to change the allowable height of buildings in the commercial zone from the old allowable height of 120 feet to 65 feet. And that affects all of the property that's zone commercial throughout River Road and Santa Clara. Mixed-use development is allowed in those areas, so you could see a tall commercial building or a tall mixed-use building or a tall residential building in that zone. So that was the height that was agreed upon and approved by council. The only exception is the area that Jared noted on River Avenue, the more industrial kind of area. The building height doesn't apply there, and neither do the other changes to the code, the prohibited uses and some design standards and transition standards. Also, they're carved out of all of those changes along River Avenue.
Okay. And then a big push for this was to be, is kind of part of the parking issue also, is a walk ped type development. And a lot of that was structured around commercial on the first floor, but we completely went away from that, right?
Throughout the process, there was a desire for mixed-use development, a desire to bring more businesses to the area. They are definitely allowed, but they are not required on the first floor of a commercially zoned property, a building built on a commercially zoned property. During the planning process, different options were explored. There was a point where the draft code would have required ground floor commercial at certain intersections. That didn't make it into the final package, and since then, there have been some housing-related bills passed at the state level that actually make it very difficult for cities to require that and mandate that we waive that requirement if we do actually put it into place for people that are proposing housing.
Got it. Okay. Well, I just wanted to raise a couple of concerns that have been brought to me, so, thank you, Ms. Harding. That was very clear. Appreciate it.
All right. I think I'll just add, it's a little tangential, but not exactly. I've also chatted with some folks out in particularly the River Road corridor, but a few Santa Clara folks as well about the parking and a mix of opinions about whether it's a problem, how much of a problem, but most importantly, what should be done about it. And I just want to note, this is one of those, this is a really significant plan and opportunity, and the amount of input and participation by the people most directly impacted, which is who's living there now. Their participation has been phenomenal, and the work of the neighborhood groups in ensuring that is commendable. And it's always tricky when we're at a time of making a change to, we want to bring what's worked from the past, but be visionary about what's possible for the future. And I think this issue of parking is one that, cities everywhere are experiencing, right? And as someone who grew up in a city where not only was there not parking, but the houses were built before there were cars, so there weren't garages and driveways either, and lots of apartments, and people figure it out and make it work, and the need to mitigate to ensure kids can walk to school safely, and that access to pedestrian infrastructure isn't blocked is really important. But I just want to recommend for anybody watching who wants to understand this more, there's a phenomenal book called How Parking, I was looking it up to get the title right, How Parking Explains the World, I think it's called. Henry Graybar's the author. Jared's smiling, I don't know if you've heard of this book. But what's so important about it to me, and particularly for this board, because we're having so much conversation everywhere about affordable housing, is how parking requirements have actually led to a lack of affordable housing because of the taking up so much valuable land and the cost that's required to developers of creating parking infrastructure increases the cost of building the housing itself. So taking that holistic look, if we're really concerned about building more affordable housing, about the impact of requiring parking go along with housing, is actually at cross purposes to having more housing and more affordable housing. So just putting a plug in for that book. I think it's really useful and relevant, and I learned a lot reading it. Any other? All right. Well then, with that, I would look for a motion, and then we can offer discussion of the motion if there is. And just a reminder, this is an ordinance, so it will be a roll call vote. Do I have a motion?
Yeah, Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance number PA 1391 as presented.
Second.
It's been moved by the Vice Chair and seconded by Commissioner Senega, approval of the third reading and ordinance number PA 1391. Is there any discussion to the motion? Commissioner Buck.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to appreciate all the volunteer hours, community that has spent on this plan, and of course, the good work of our staff and staff of the City of Eugene. So I know this is a considerable body of work, as I can see from the box and all the paper right in front of us that you brought, just in case we had a question in there, right? But I do want to wholeheartedly appreciate, I once lived in the Santa Clara area and River Road area as well, and understand the need for this kind of planning. So I just want to offer that appreciation. Thank you.
Commissioner Farr.
Thank you, Chair Trigger. And I'm going to vote in favor of the ordinance. Thanks for all the coordinated work that went into this. And it changed, the plan changed as it went along. It's been a number of years since it originated, and since the process originated. And I think a lot has gone into it. But just a heads up to everybody, we will be hearing about parking. We will be hearing about transportation issues, and we will be hearing about the fact that people are having their driveways blocked potentially, and that some of our streets are less easy for fire trucks to navigate, for instance. This is much of what we heard with the Echo Apartments, and we continue to hear it. If we're ready for that, then let's go forward with the ordinance. And once again, I'm in favor of the ordinance.
Seeing no other comments or questions, I'll ask our acting administrator to call the roll for the vote on ordinance number PA 1391.
391. Okay, roll call vote. Commissioner Senega,
Yes.
Commissioner Buck,
Aye.
Commissioner Farr,
Yes.
Vice Chair Lovell,
Yes.
Chair Trieger.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0 on ordinance PA 1391 in the matter of amending the Eugene Springfield Metropolitan Area General Plan and adopting the River Road Santa Clara Neighborhood Plan. Thank you very much, staff, for not just today, but years of your life on this project. Great timing. I see some other folks arriving for our next item.
Chair Trieger, I will step away to give room at the table for guests.
Great, if you can just flip the nameplates over or stack them or however you want to do that for the viewing public. Unless we want to give some people a promotion real quick. Terrific. And while staff and guests are assembling and getting things ready, I will just announce this item is a discussion and action on a very exciting, long overdue, important project, the development of a Sundown Across the Bridge monument. And we have some community partners with us, and our Director of Public Works, Dan Hurley, is here, so I'll let him introduce staff and our partners that are with us. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're glad you're here. And we'll hear about the project, we'll have a bit of a discussion, and then action is being requested of us to submit a letter of support for this project to the Black Cultural Initiative. So, good afternoon. Thank you, Director Hurley.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Commissioners. So we're here to talk about some shameful and tragic history that Lane County carried out in the 1940s, almost 75 years ago. It's a history that has been known in the community, but not widely known. It didn't come to my attention until 2019 when our General Services Manager, Michael Johns, read a publication from the Lane County Historical Museum that brought this history to our attention, that Lane County had raised the first black neighborhood, and Latifa will go into more of the history of that. But it would have been Public Works employees that carried that out a long time ago, so it was important for us to take some movement to try to acknowledge this history. We've spoken with the board a couple times about this. We called it the Ferry Street Village Memorial. We're now calling it the Across the Bridge Monument, and we'll get into more of the history of why it was called that. And I guess from here I'll pass to Latifa, but we're joined today, very excited to have two people here from the Black Cultural Initiative. We have Talisha Brown and Irene Rashid. Talisha is the executive director, and Irene is the program consultant, I believe. Please correct me if I don't have your titles right. But we've been trying to move this project along and have had some difficulty with that. We've been working with the City of Eugene and tried to do some public outreach. But the Black Cultural Initiative is really taking the helm here, and very excited to see this being moved forward. And I'll pass to Latifa, excuse me, and I might have a few more words to say at the end. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, and Board of County Commissioners. So we're here today for an update on Board Order 21-02-02-04 in the matter of acknowledging the destruction of Lane County's first black neighborhood and resolving to honor the history of the Ferry Street Village, as well as seeking board approval in providing a letter of support to the Black Culture Initiative, who is leading the efforts in erecting a monument that honors that history. I want to just bring to attention some important dates in this event. In the 1940s, Eugene's first black neighborhood took root in the north bank of the Willamette River. This was outside of city boundaries. This was not taken up by the city until the 1960s. And part of that is because Eugene was a sundown town, which was an incredibly hostile and violent place for any black residents to be in, particularly after dark. So a lot of black residents took residence outside of city limits. This was called the Ferry Street Village community. Between 1948 and 1949, Lane County Board of County Commissioners issued an order to remove that existing community in the name of development. August 24th, 1949, a bulldozer entered and destroyed this settlement, and it was destroyed even past the borders that were outlined in that original document. Some folks had a few minutes to gather belongings, and a lot of the legacy of the destruction of that community still is seen in Eugene today. So this year will mark the 75th anniversary of the displacement and the destruction of this Black community. While this may seem like a long time ago, I want to remind all of us that there are living survivors of this event, so how we speak about it greatly, greatly matters. And from here, I'm going to hand it over to Dan, and we will get started.
Okay, so this project kind of stalled out for a few years. We went to the board to ask for the board to acknowledge this history and also ask for support to move it forward. The board at that time dedicated $10,000 in support that we anticipated would be used for public outreach and to start building a design concept. The City of Eugene never billed us for that. They ended up wrapping up the public outreach into some other outreach they were doing on their parks. So we haven't spent any funds on this project. At this point, the Black Cultural Initiative is asking for a letter of support from the board, and just a letter of support at this time, and to look at potential funding for the project in the range of $15,000 to $20,000. Unfortunately, the public outreach didn't generate much of useful feedback for what was wanted there. Most of the time was spent on those other parks projects, but it did raise the conversation in the community to the level that the Black Cultural Initiative became aware that there was interest here. I think that they had interest from their community and from the institute, the initiative, and really felt that this should be moved forward by Black people in the community, and we're very excited to see that happening. So they've been trying to move an aggressive timeline forward, which we're excited to see, and trying to get response of commitment from the City of Eugene as well, we'll be seeking outside funding to build this monument, estimated in the range of close to $200,000, and a beautiful monument. You'll see some pictures here, working with a Black artist, and very excited to see this finally getting traction, and wishing them all the best as they move forward. So they have a short presentation to take you through the timeline and some concepts for the memorial, and so I'll pass to you. Thank you.
As mentioned, I'm Irene Rashid from the Black Cultural Initiative. I'll try to be brief. This proposal, sorry, I'm used to a Mac. This proposal will just kind of get you caught up on all of the discussions to date, and then more specifically, the involvement we would like Lane County to have.
You are doing just fine for time. Our previous item went a little more quickly than expected, and this is important, so take your time.
Oh, there we go. All right, so our goals with this project are to have the foundational pioneering Black families' neighborhood displacement and destruction properly acknowledged by the City of Eugene and Lane County through the erection of a monument in Alton Baker Park, which is where they would have been situated at the time. We would like that Lane County participate and commit a minimum of $15,000 to $20,000, but ideally $20,000 toward the design and fabrication of that monument. We would like Lane County to participate in a commemoration event of the 75th year anniversary of that injustice on July 21st, where the county will have a chance to acknowledge the historic part the county played in that history, apologize for it, and unveil the monument plans with the entire community. We would like Lane County to commit a combination of human, financial, and in-kind resources toward that July 21st commemoration ceremony. And we would like that Lane County, if you can appoint one representative to participate in the ceremony on behalf of the county itself. And then I just want to reiterate that this is not just to have that acknowledgement and commemoration. This will also be the time that the final monument, I think there'll be a 3D model, half-scale or full-scale, available for all of Lane County to come and see so that they'll know what will be erected. So this is the timeline specifically that we would like Lane County to consider, and that we think will be most effective and in line with our timeline and the city of Eugene's. April 30th, by April 30th, we would appreciate a letter of support that states the county's full endorsement of the commission of this monument, and any funding requests that are attached specifically and singularly to its creation. So we will be approaching, for example, U of O, eWeb, places that are actually using that land that these original families were living on and asking for a contribution. So your letter of support will let them know that we are in fact working with City of Eugene and Lane County toward that end, and specifically only that end. May 13th, 2024, we would like Lane County to pinpoint a representative for the commemoration celebration or ceremony, and your financial contribution. And also we have a needs list that is just for in-kind donations. Talisha will talk more about this. We actually throw an annual festival for Lane County in Alton Baker Park at the site where these elders and their families lived. And we have forgone our festival and donated our funding that we receive for our festival to this commemoration event. And so we have a needs list so that we aren't throwing an entire event for the whole county. And we'd like you guys just to look at that list and see where you might be of help. July 1st, 2024, we would like an explicit commitment to that minimum of 15 to 20K in funding for the monument project. And just noting that July is that anniversary of when those families' homes were bulldozed down. It is important to say that under the guidance of Ms. Parker, who was originally in conversations, but all three surviving elders that are still living in our area today, we have committed as the Black Cultural Initiative that we would advocate on behalf of the Black community and those that were displaced in 1949. We want to ensure the legacy of their families and the other Black pioneering families are honored, as well as the three surviving elders from that time who lived through that tragedy. April 22nd, and we're kissing this timeline now. At the time that this was put out, it was in progress. It was our community survey so that we could speak to our community and field their suggestions for those 3 or 4 locations and designs for the statue. We meet with the City of Eugene and their engineer this week, I believe Friday, to finalize that location. May 24th, we've committed to, and we have already actually done this, found a Black artist locally. He lives in Eugene that has a skill to design that monument. And also he's provided us with the estimates that we'll go over in just one second. And on the 28th, May 28th, we've committed to presenting that final proposed monument sketch to the 3 surviving elders to get their approval. July 1st, working with our other local Black organizations, we are going to solidify that final push for fundraising for the monument. And on July 15th, we'll be prepared to present a full final proposal to both the city and the county. These are our current monument drafts. Our artist is Percy Powell. You guys do have a copy of this, so I won't go too much into his history, but he is a talented woodworker. He does metalwork, and he also works in leather and clay. He has done all of the drafts that you will see coming up, and he will also be doing the main monument draft, working alongside the families and also with the engineering team from the City of Eugene and artist consultants. The first design, as you can see, is a more modest monument. All of these monuments are done in granite with bronze relief or full bronze with granite for the informational text. I won't go deeply into these again. You guys can look at them in more detail in your copies. Design 2 and Design 3 are the most popular designs among the elders and community members who have had a chance to view these. This one is a little more intricate. I want to just be clear that the images you see will not be the images that will actually be in the final monument. They're just there to give people an idea of what the castings can look like. The elders and the community will decide on what the final images will be. And then Design 3, which is the most expensive of the 3 designs. And remember that these prices are ranged. It really depends on the foundry we use. Some of our local foundries might be too small for a project of this scale. And this is the 3rd design that was presented to us by our artist. The general scale, we're looking at a monument that is around 8 feet tall. And that is for all of the monuments. That will be their minimal size. And our general timeline, milestones that the artist has put forth for us, if we are ready to move forward, when and if, as soon as he has his initial deposit, he will refine that conceptual design, fully develop it in stage 2. That will take about 3 months, do the 3D modeling for those designs for the foundry, which can take up to 6 months. That will push us into 2025. And then he'll have a final meeting with the construction drawings and the engineers. That will take about 2 weeks just to finalize those plans, since the engineers will be involved ongoing. The city of Eugene will have to take care of permitting, because now that is no longer Lane County land, it is their land now. And then our foundry fabrication will have the final answer on that when they have the 3D modeling. We're estimating about 3 weeks that we have a mid-sized foundry take care of it. And that, the end of that.
Karen, do you have anything to add, Talisha?
I don't have anything to add, actually. I'm available for questions from the commissioners.
Great, thank you. So today we're just looking for your support in signing a letter of support so that we can show commitment and so that BCI can start working on the fundraising around this project. The board has previously supported this project, and I would expect that you would still support this. We didn't put in the letter a specific dollar amount, and we indicated that we'd be working through the budgeting process to try to identify those funds to meet the July 1st request. So I think that covers it, subject to your questions. Commissioner Farr.
Thank you. Yeah, Commissioner Farr.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Earl. Thank you for the presentation. It seems like a very quick time frame and a pretty moderate ask, if you'll forgive me for saying so. A question for you, Mr. Early. The $10,000 that was previously allocated, where does that fall into this?
Correct. Since that wasn't spent and it's been allocated, that could roll over into the funding that you could be considering for this project.
Or we could pretend it's not there, fund this, and then use that for some other part of the project.
Eventually.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Commissioner Buck.
Thank you, Chair. I find this really exciting and really appreciate you all stepping in to help move this along. We've needed to acknowledge this for so long, and our commitment is that we don't just talk about it, we do something to rectify the best we can at this point in history. And I couldn't be more supportive. I have a technical question, somewhat similar to Commissioner Farr, is knowing that we have some money that's already committed and kind of hanging out there. We're coming into our budget season, and that would, this is very timely because that's where some of these requests can be facilitated through. Sometimes at the end of our process, we have some community agencies come in and request some funding at that time. Is that when we would be seeing this, or can we make a commitment prior to that process?
Sure, I believe you could make a commitment prior to that process, or it could be considered at that moment.
So either one, whatever works out. And okay,
Commissioner.
Great. Thank you. No, full support and happy to be involved.
Commissioner Seneca.
Yes, great presentation. This some of this work is very impressive. You know, and really, in the scheme of things, these dollars are, I mean, there's not a big difference. If we're gonna go with 3, even though it is a little bit more expensive, I really support it. I love the family picture and the family dynamic on that stuff, so, yeah, thanks for bringing this to us.
Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, this is an exciting project. I hear your kind of hesitation sometimes when you show people images of what it could look like. They kind of lock into that and they don't vary, so let's all make sure the public knows that. But those are pretty exciting and vivid images that I think really capture what we as a county and you as the Black County Initiative is trying to produce here. And I'm in full support of it. And I'm like Commissioner Farr. Seems to me like if we're going to spend 150 or 200,000, 20,000 asking from the counties, a little bit less than what I would expect. And I'm kind of also concerned a little bit about the amount of fundraising that it would take. Because I guess in the report, all I'm seeing is about $65,000 total, give or take. And if we're doing something that's 150, I mean, we're still a long ways off. And I'm wondering if that is a burden that falls on you all to raise that enough money, or if the county and the city and even Springfield could participate in a little bit heavier lift and make those deadlines that you're putting out there a little more attainable.
Sure. So we did not present to you our comprehensive proposal in terms of our fundraising. We're actually working on that behind the scenes. The ask from the county is actually fairly modest, and we're really wanting to get your full support, you know, wherever we are at. So if that is a number that really honestly is quite modest, right? If that's a number that you would like to increase, we are happy and gladly will receive, right? But the main point is that we want to have full endorsement and support from the City of Eugene, from Lane County, from various organizations throughout the region and throughout the county, right? And thank you for also bringing up the City of Springfield. They are also a really important player in this project. With that being said, from the Black Cultural Initiative, the letter of support is really so that we can begin fundraising strategies, specifically working with grants and foundations and private donors to fund the rest of the monies needed to get this monument built, as well as not just getting it built, but the supporting things around it, around history, the commemoration celebration, lots of different things. So this commemoration celebration that's happening on July 21st, which would be the 75th anniversary, is really what we're asking is that one or more commissioners be sign on to be present to publicly acknowledge and also to give an acknowledgement of those monies for this project. And then in a year or maybe a little bit more to then have a actual unveiling celebration that really acknowledges, with this monument constructed, the work that has been done and the community partners and governmental organizations that have participated.
Yeah. And so I would just like to add to that, just to be clear, whatever the City of Eugene and Lane County do not commit, we will have to raise. And our pinpoint is, number one, the people that are using the land now. So we would be looking, like I said, at eWeb, Kendall Ford, those companies that are actually utilizing the land these families lived on. And then we would be looking for what I would consider small money donations. We've not asked more than 20 to 25K from any one individual organization or company, just because we want to make it a light lift. But our ask doesn't mean like that has to be the limit of what people choose. We just are asking for what we think we can strongly solidify a yes to, so that we can chip away at the overall budget. But of course, we are not, if you want to make our work easier, please do. We would appreciate that.
Well, thank you. I hear what you're saying exactly, and I think given the information that we have and the storyline and the fact that it was a brief portion away, I mean, one generation, I remember the words of my mentor that says you only get one chance to make a good first impression, so I'm encouraging the county to make their best impression. So thank you.
But I think, did you want to add something, Commissioner
Ready
Ford?
for a motion?
Oh, well, I'd like to make some comment. I think you're hearing unanimous support, clear support. I just think it's so interesting, you know, at our morning session, we heard our quarterly update on the rebuild of the Holiday Farm fire. And a lot of frustration about how slowly government was moving in helping people rebuild their homes from a natural disaster. And here we have an opportunity to, you know, not rebuild homes, but this is in response to homes that were willfully destroyed as an act of government. So it is literally the very least we can do, I believe, to provide this letter, and a very modest amount of money. I would also offer, you know, just speaking for myself, but encourage my colleagues to consider, each of us has a discretionary office budget, and it is replenished each July 1, start of the fiscal year, so at the tail end of one, and we'll be going into another, and each one of us has an opportunity to also make an individual contribution, perhaps to match to some degree, some portion of what the county may be able to offer up, but this is an organization with a $1 billion budget. Your ask is very small. Now, admittedly, that's not all flexible funding. I want to be clear. We don't get to decide what to spend all that money on. But in terms of scope and scale and the significance of this event, again, that was an act of government. And our opportunity to literally put our money where our mouth is, where we're all with our mouths here saying we think this is important, it's a real opportunity. I want to ask a sort of a bummer of a question, which is, have you considered in your fundraising, are there plans for generating some kind of ongoing maintenance fund? And partly that's just the natural, what happens in the elements to things like this, and they need to be kept clean and the area around it maintained. But as sad as it is, I think we can also anticipate that there may be some vandalism. We know what the Peace Park, which is also located in Alton Baker Park, gets little bits of vandalism, but the biggest target are the representatives from Black history, the plaques representing those contributors to peace. Those are the plaques that get the most vandalism. And so I'm wondering if that's something you have considered, and if that might not be something in future years that we could consider providing some kind of support for, to not only make sure this really beautiful and important monument gets built, but that it's honored. And then the last thing I wanted to say is, you know, it is an aggressive timeline. I appreciate that because, as you said, you're engaging with the elders for whom this will mean so much to know this is going to happen, and to get it done quickly so that they have an opportunity to actually see it come to fruition is really meaningful. So I actually appreciate the urgency behind it for that reason.
Thank you for acknowledging that.
So Commissioner Farr.
Thank you, Trigger.
Well, we don't actually have an order in front of us. We're looking for action.
The motion is to approve, there is a motion.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Sorry. Oh, in the packet, there's a motion. Sorry, I'm looking at the agenda. Thank you so much.
Without an order number attached to it. And I'll look at Mr. Hurley, Director Hurley and Mr. Rickoff. Let's make this happen ahead of the timeline. Part of what I would like to suggest is that let's forget that $10,000 exists. Let's look to funding the entire $20,000 that you're asking for, and then keep our eye on it as things move forward. We'll make it happen well inside of your timeline. I think the county can be a great facilitator of that, and I would ask that part of this motion, even though it's not inherent it's not written in the letter that you'd be signing, Chair, that is a part of my intent of this motion, is that we move with the kind of haste that the chair is talking about. So my motion then is to approve signing a letter of support to the Black Cultural Initiative for the sundown access to the Bridge Monument Project.
Second. Do you want to clarify that, or do you want to add the donation portion of that?
I can add that, and that the county fund the entire $20,000 that is being asked for, and without consideration that $10,000 has already been allocated, that can be used for other purposes.
So the motion on the table is to approve signing a letter of support to the Black Cultural Initiative for the Sundown Across the Bridge Monument Project, and a commitment of meeting the $20,000 request.
Now, I could say, let's make it $25,000.
Well, we can always offer that. You want to feel like an auctioneer now. Do I hear 25?
I'm going to say let's, with a $25,000 to exceed the $20,000 ask, make it $25,000, which is, as you say, a tiny drop in the budgetary bucket.
I'll second that, just with the clarification that the funding will come from our general fund account.
From general fund, probably reserves, but I won't specify, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Maybe if I could just request clarification. The letter in front of you for your signature doesn't have that in that, so I could revise that letter for your signature if that would suffice, or?
We could do that, or we could do a separate motion. We could keep
That
the
might be
motion
quick.
to what's here, do the letter, get it moving, and then we could do another motion to work with the Office of County Administrator and Public Works to find funding of $25,000. Can I make that recommendation?
That would probably be a much cleaner way to do it, Chair, yeah. So my motion then will be revised to state, I move approving signing a letter of support to the Black Cultural Initiative for the Sundown Access to the Bridge Monument Project.
I'll second. This with a across the bridge monument project.
I'm sorry.
Is there any discussion to the motion? Then I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify with an aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0 to approve signing the letter as presented. Thank you very much. And then Commissioner Farr, did you have a second?
Then I would move that that we ask the administrator to find $25,000 from general fund, potential general fund reserve to fund the request by the Black Cultural Initiative.
I'll second that as well.
It's been moved by Commissioner Farr, seconded by Commissioner Buck, for the county administrator to work to find $25,000 of funding to contribute to this monument project. Any discussion to that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your support,
Thank
Board.
you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you all. Next on our agenda, item 12, Health and Human Services item. This is Order 24-04-23-07 in the matter of accepting a grant award from the Lane Community Health Council in the amount of $500,000 and delegating authority to the administrator to execute the award documents. And I will welcome Health and Human Services Director Eve Gray and have her introduce her panel. Good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you. We are here, we don't normally do this type of presentation before we accept money, right? That's normally, it's pretty straightforward. But it is the policy of the county that if acceptance of a grant could someday lead to financial obligation on the part of the county that we don't know that we have a plan to cover fully in the future, that you all need to hear what the project is and what the funds will go toward, and officially approve the acceptance of that grant. So that is what we are here to do today. We have Rowan Pemberton, who works in Family and Child Health, Brian Johnson, who is a program manager over this area as well. Brian will be doing the majority of a presentation to introduce to you the Family Connects program, a program that the county committed to participating in back in 2019. And then the whole world changed. So we did not follow through on that commitment as of yet, but we did make that commitment to the state back in 2019 and are now looking to move forward on that commitment that was made, knowing that Family and Child Health is a general fund supported area. This area is better supported than, this Family Connects program is better supported than many of the areas within Family and Child Health. But as Brian will describe, all fantastic programs come with some element of risk. So I will kick it over to Brian.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Vice Chair and Commissioners. This afternoon, as Eve has laid out for you, our intent is to just walk you through what the acceptance of roughly $500,000 that's been awarded to us by the Lane Community Health Council to support the launch of the Family Connects program, what that looks like, what it'll support, what the potential risks look like if we accept, as well as the opportunities, because this is actually a tremendous opportunity in front of us. We've managed to line up a lot of local support to make this happen, and it's an important opportunity in front of us. So I'll walk you through it. I want to talk a little bit about the program, also how this complements our existing programs in the Family and Child Health program and how it will expand our current services in the community. So a couple things to just highlight for you, and to keep in mind, Family Connects is a brand new program. So this is not an existing program in our suite, except to the extent that we have so far spent our time and energy around planning and preparing for the eventual launch of this program. and I'll go into a little more detail of that in just a minute. So, a couple things to keep in mind, though. Family Connects, in and of itself, is not really a standalone program. And so, with that in mind, it's important just to keep in mind that the Family and Child Health Program, housed within Public Health, is currently provides 4 key. Oh, excuse me. Thank you. And I'll keep going while we do that, if that's okay.
Yes, you keep going.
Because I think at this point, the slides are less important, but we'll get into that. Thank you, Eve. So, Family Child Health has 4 key programs that are currently that we're supporting right now that really provide a spectrum of services, and kind of depending on where folks are in their needs and in their pregnancy along the way. And so those 4 programs are nurse home visiting based programs. 3 of them are nurse home based visiting programs, and a 4th program that we do provide through contracted services. So those programs being the Nurse Family Partnership, and Babies First, Cocoon, and then Healthy Families are our 4 base programs, which we have been before the board before to talk about. And really, primarily, just to keep in mind, those are long-term commitment programs. Generally, folks get a number of visits over a period of potentially years, a couple of years in some cases, and they're relationship-based. And so that's the intent behind those programs, is to really provide an opportunity to provide relationship-based services that really build on the strengths and opportunities within a particular family and to meet their needs as to where they are, and to help them really identify and set goals that are where that family wants to be and where they want to go. So there's a lot of opportunity in those programs. But again, I just want to emphasize they are primarily relationship-based, and 3 of those 4 programs are really dependent on the nurse home visiting component, so meaning that there is a nurse present in the home that brings their skills and to that interaction, and it's often a very successful opportunity to build resiliency and economic sustainability for a family that might otherwise be struggling with a number of different life circumstances, and yet have many strengths that they can build upon. So Family Connects, in particular, the reason it is before us now and why it has been in the county's mix for a period of time, it is a new, relatively new state mandated program, in the sense that it was passed through Oregon legislation prior to COVID, in fact, and it was through Senate Bill 525 in 2019, and at that point, opportunity was set up for counties to step in as early adopters. And Lane County was one of those folks, one of those counties that stepped into this mix to say we would like to help work on implementation of this, explore what it might look like in our community, and see if we can pull this off. COVID, of course, threw us a wrench, like many, many things we've talked about in front of the board before. So we stepped back a little bit during our COVID response, primarily to make sure that we could focus our energy around COVID and not get too distracted by the energy that would go into planning this program. In that time, though, we have, since, as we've moved out of the COVID response, shifted our energy back into this and the planning and energy, and that's why Rowan has joined our staff in the past year and a half or so to really help work on the step-by-step implementation of this program. And so we have started to walk into that as to what that would look like and how we would go about implementing locally. By its nature, or broadly described, this program is really a single visit, could be up to 3 visits, conducted in a family's home or in a location of their choosing. It's intended to be universally provided to those who choose to participate in the program. It's not a requirement by any means, but of course, if someone chooses to participate, they have that opportunity, and there's no income restrictions or those sorts of things that prevent participation in the program. Unlike our other programs, it is, of course, a brief opportunity or intervention. It's going to be no more than 3 visits in the earliest periods, just after a family has welcomed the child into their home. But the intent of that is to have the opportunity to work together with a nurse who brings their expertise to kind of look at the family situation, connect them with resources in our community, and in particular, because of our robust program here in Family and Child Health, to help connect them into services that they may, for whatever reason, did not connect up earlier during their pregnancy, may have chose not at that time, but are now open to it, or we just somehow didn't connect with them. So this is it closes a gap that may exist in our system currently. It provides an opportunity to really connect folks into our services as well as community-based organizations and other services who might be able to address the family's needs. Again, it's a brief intervention, not a standalone program, and it's really intended to be part of a robust system of services, and that's what makes this program work. It's not the sort of program we would adopt and just expect it to be by itself and have success in our community. So, and that's where the community alignment piece comes in, because a lot of this program, Family Connects, really builds on, we collect a lot of information and data. That's what's intended in the planning process to make sure we're tracking where are the needs, where are the gaps in our community, where can we potentially work more closely to find more opportunity for folks who are not getting the services they need. And so a lot of that is built into the structure. I think that will be helpful to some of our existing programs, and it builds off of a lot of the relationships we currently have in the healthcare system and the nonprofits in our community that will help us to continue to grow our system of care for our families in our community. It is, and again, it's most effective when it's part of a system. So that's why we're spending a lot of energy in that area of the work, as well as not just the home visiting component, or the home access and referral assessment part of the program. This program, like many of our other programs, is evaluated and researched and has good potential outcomes for our community, and I think that's a piece we want to emphasize. It's maybe not as strong as some of our existing programs, and that's by the very nature of the short intervention that it is, but it still has good returns, and I just want to make sure the folks are tracking that. This is definitely an opportunity to prevent, preventing emergency department utilization. We've seen outcomes in the Family Connects International that also emphasize that every community investment of $1 results in $3 in savings, specifically related to emergency care in our community. So there is a definite return on investment, and that's something, given the return on investment that comes from our many other programs, it just makes a more robust suite of choices and opportunities for people to connect with services. And again, one thing that's unique with this program, I guess I want to highlight, is that there's a commercial billing opportunity, which we currently, most of our services and programs are either supported through state dollars, local investments, or Medicaid billing in particular. And this program, because it is universally offered and because we need to look for a way of creating a sustainable investment, relies on our ability to leverage commercial billing. And the state has worked in this domain. I think there's still have some room to improve what that's going to look like for us and to improve the type of return we're going to see here locally. It'll also mean a fair amount of work on our end. So I think that's a risk to keep in mind. Just what it means to really best leverage working with commercial billers and payers, and recognizing that in some cases, commercial payers may not be required to pay. And while there are some opportunities provided by the state to fill in that gap, it may not cover the full costs. And so that's something we need to keep in mind. But again, this is an opportunity, and what it does do is set us up for an opportunity for sustainability. So that's the one key thing that's in front of us today, and I want to talk about that. Because in the earliest stages of launching this program, it's like any other new program, new business, new opportunity. There's usually an upfront investment. In our case, this program, the investment will be in the staff that we need to bring on board to train, to ramp up the program, to build our caseload, to bring in the right supplies. And so that investment we anticipate will be over a period of about 3 years. And so what this opportunity with the Lane Community Health Council does, of the $500,000 investment, is actually to cover most of the upfront costs that our program will be faced with, in addition to other investments. And that's what you see up there in the slide on the screen there. Roughly 40% of the upfront investment in year one is really going to be driven by this grant from the Lane Community Health Council and grants from the state of Oregon. And then over time, over the next year, we'll starting to be bringing in some revenue related to the billing portion of this project. And so that's year one. And so what's good about that first year and into the second year, because this does cover, the grant covers 2 years of investment, is it will cover most of the risk in that time frame. Most of the costs that we anticipated are planned for and anticipated in this. but it is a little bit driven by how, what our caseloads look like and how quickly the program ramps up. So I'll talk about that a little more. If all goes as we anticipated and have modeled, we anticipate this program can reach sustainability by year 3, possibly year 4, but we're working towards year 3 because it's the best scenario for us. But again, that just kind of depends. We're planning and predicting. We don't know exactly what the economic environment will look like and what these investments might require of us. So from our standpoint, that's the key sort of risk point financially for this program. And I'll talk about the investments here for a sec so you understand what we're looking at. You can see up there on the board the year 1 expenditures and what that will look like. We will have a break-even model, assuming we can bring on the staff in the time frame we expect and train up and build that caseload. But there is some variability that will occur over those first 3 years. And that variability depends a lot on inflation, how quickly bring on caseload, how, what the other sort of situation looks like here financially in Lane County. We have given this considerable thought in the modeling and the thinking through in this, and we think there are a few things that we can do to mitigate the risk for us as a county. Maybe not completely eliminate the risk, but part of that is how quickly we ramp up, how quickly we hire the team and train. We can pace that according to how things are happening. We don't need to bring on all of the staff all at once, and so we will be monitoring that pretty closely, and we can report back to the board how that's progressing. And our intent being not to bring on staff that the need is not, or the demand is not requiring of us by that point. So to that extent, we can mitigate that as well. Also, just given that we will be having a little bit of a learning curve during that time frame, we have a period of time in which we will be learning what it means to work with the commercial payers and revising our system to really best generate that revenue as we can. But I think one of the other things that will be in front of the board and for us to be paying attention to is the ways in which we are holding the state in this partnership with us, because we do think there are some opportunities there with how they're currently investing with and working with commercial payers, the amount they're willing to pay for us or they've been able to negotiate on behalf of the counties. I think that is something we, over the time of the next 3 years, will want to continue to pay attention to and encourage, making sure that that investment is appropriate for the needs locally. We do know that other counties have struggled to get up to speed on this, to really create a sustainable investment that levels out and really brings them to a zero investment, local investment potential scenario. I think we are faced with the possibility that we might have to come to the board over the next couple of years for one-time investments to keep the program moving. But once we get to this point, reaching sustainability. All of that to say, that is our economic reality of coming into this this next 3-year period to potentially launch this program, and that's what that looks like. But there's also a lot of other opportunities in front of us that are really not economic investments. And in particular, I've already touched on, it really rounds out the suite of services that we've got in front of us. It, in particular, because it's a universally offered program, has an opportunity to reduce the stigma of accessing services through the Family and Child Health Program, because now it normalizes the opportunity for someone to assist, to have a nurse available to you, to be talking about your family's needs and to be setting goals and opportunities for yourself within your family that are appropriate for you. And that we see as one of the biggest gains of investing in this program, as well as it is a driver. It will be an opportunity for us to connect with families who are otherwise missing our system, to really increase our strength of our reach, especially communities of color and other communities who have historically been disadvantaged in our system. We see this as a way to build upon where we already have strengths, as an opportunity to continue to reach and better connect with communities. So those are the opportunities before us if we choose to proceed with this. Of course, those opportunities, if we choose not, we potentially walk away from those, that strength in our community. But that's why we ask the board to really look at what's before us, understand that there may be a need for local investment at some level, but that we think there's a lot of opportunity to mitigate at least the risk as much as possible. In what is otherwise a state mandated request of us, we will eventually be faced with implementation of this, and we just need to walk into it with our eyes wide open as to what that's going to look like for us. And I think Lane County is well positioned. We have a highly experienced nursing supervisor already in our program who is among the most senior in the state of Oregon currently, has really good insight on what it means to lead a team of folks and bring them on board and bring up their productivity. And we are also well positioned with our relationships with the local health system. We are already in the local hospitals and have a strong referral partnership. Many other counties that have entered into this are building that relationship as they're building this program. We are not going to have to do that. We will be able to ramp up a lot faster for that very reason. So all of that in front of us for this really potential opportunity, and also a very generous contribution from Lane Community Health Council. And so with that, I think I really will just wrap it up for you all for further discussion or questions. And as I can help you, better understand, we've also got Rowan and of course Eve here, Director Gray, to help answer your questions if we can. So thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you for the presentation. If you want to just take down the screen share, Rowan or Director Gray, did you want to add anything or just wait and respond to questions? Okay.
And I think the only other thing that I would say is, of course, from a financial perspective, we need to make this ask of you. It is certainly recommendation of our department that we do accept these dollars and we do launch the Family Connects program. We believe that it's in the best interest of our community. I think we also believe that there are other funding opportunities out there, not just general fund. We are in the process of growing and building our federally qualified health center. We are in the process of applying for grants to further expand services, particularly in the area of addiction, where we are able to see some margins that we can use to reinvest within our own programs. And we know that one of the few quality metrics that we are not currently achieving in our community for quality incentive dollars from the state for the CCOs is that moms get a postpartum visit. And this is an opportunity to get into every household and help connect families with that postpartum visit, which again might unlock dollars for the community that we could work collaboratively with the CCOs on identifying how we can continue to support this programming if we can demonstrate those positive returns. So I think there are opportunities out there, which is why we're recommending that even with the risk, we go ahead and move forward with the program. But we are here to answer your questions.
To the board. Commissioner Buck.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not familiar with the program, so I just have some really basic questions. In one of the first slides, it says for Family Connects, is a screening, assessment, and community connection program, not a home visiting model. And yet in the second bullet, it says, according to Senate Bill 526, universally offered opt-in nurse home visit for families with newborns. So is it visiting at home or is it not visiting at home? I guess I got confused right off the bat because of this.
Yeah, no, that's a very important question. So it's the extent to which they use the term home visit in the legislation in particular, which is very broad. But when we're trying to be clear about the distinction between a home visiting scenario, which is much like our existing suite of programs, in which there's a long-term relationship established and there's a long-term commitment of a nurse, registered nurse in the home with the family. In this model, while they do provide the service in the home or the other location they choose, it is short-term. And so that's the primary distinction. It also is focused on a referral component. And so instead of an ongoing conversation with the family, shifting focus on their priorities and attending to what those needs might be over time, it really focuses in on what's the current status of this family right now and what are the services we can connect them into that might be able to address those. And from our standpoint, that's different. And we want to make sure that we talk about it that way because there's a difference in the type of experience for that family and really what the outcomes look like. And so that's why we are here with you distinguishing it very much that way. No, would you add any additional
Sure.
clarification? Yeah.
So home visit really just means we are going to a home and conducting our business there, right? And we're trying to make a strong distinction there between home visiting, which is a research-based, evidence-based term that has really longitudinal implications. So when we talk about nurse home visiting, we're talking about a long-term program where a singular nurse is engaging with a family for a long time. Most of our programs, folks are working with us for about 2.5 years with a single nurse. And that relationship there is what makes the long-term difference for the family, to the point that there is a strong research now that shows implications for multiple generations. So what we're hoping with the Family Connects program is that it's going to be destigmatizing for home visiting across the entire community, so that folks see, oh, you had a baby, you have a nurse that came to your home and did a home visit. Now I'm having a baby, I want that nurse to come in and work with me. And we may be eligible for different programs based on our insurance status or our income level, but that destigmatization is going to have a huge community impact, so that over time, more and more folks are open to working with nurses in their home and reaping those benefits. And that's where Family Connects gets that return on investment of $1 investment, gets that $3 return. It's mostly in the destigmatization of home visiting more broadly.
I certainly support that. I just, I don't, as just a layperson, have no distinction between home visit and home visiting. And I don't think the general public will, honestly. That's a technical, difference in probably in the world in which you live, and you serve these communities every day. And so that was confusing for me. So I just wanted to clarify that, and thank you. I certainly understand the need. And because it has commercial billing, who is eligible? Everybody's eligible? You said it was a referral, so a referral by your doctor or referral by, who refers these women that are coming in and having, maybe, hopefully, pre-pregnancy appointments? So who is it, the nurse they provide that they see in the clinic's office? So I'm just trying to see who's eligible and how do people actually get referred to the program?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you so much for your question. So one of the ways that we'll be capturing folks to be referred into our program is by leveraging relationships that we already have, which is we have an in-hospital screener who currently goes and refers folks, conducts an eligibility screening for them in the hospital after they've given birth, so when they're on the mother-baby unit. We're going to continue utilizing that system and building on those relationships to capture folks in the hospital after they've had their baby to sign up for a Family Connects visit. When we talk about it as a referral system, what we mean is that when the nurse is there in the home with the family and is conducting their assessment and determines that the family needs support in a particular area, that nurse is then able to make a referral for that family to connect them to the service that exists across Lane County, whether that's parenting classes or lactation support or any other need that the family might have, even housing or transportation. So it's sort of two different referrals, right? The referral into the program and then the referral that results out of the program.
Great. No, that settles my question. So my initial question is, how do we know these women need it? So it sounds like every woman who goes to have their child, largely in a hospital setting, but not always, right? Will get somebody who will come in and refer based on their evaluation at the time.
Not even based on their evaluation, just based on their sheer presence there as someone who's giving birth. And we also have relationships with our out-of-hospital birthing facilities, our birthing centers, even some of our home birth midwives, who currently refer into our existing service array, and we'll be continuing to build on those relationships so that we can gather referrals into the Family Connects program.
That's great. I'm just hearkening back to the time in which I had my child and wondering, how would that have come about in my situation, so I know how it will be for future births and how much I probably really would have liked to have a home visit or a nurse come in and help me after the fact. That would have been really helpful, so thank you. I certainly support the program and hope it has the outcomes that are intended.
Commissioner Ford.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you for the questions, Commissioner Buck. That helped clarify some things in my mind, which will allow me to ask different questions. In addition to your response to Commissioner Buck, you talked about destigmatization. So there are potential recipients of the service who would not, in the existent landscape, choose to use the service. And so a large part of this is making it more easy to both understand and access for people who historically, traditionally, and potentially in the future would not access it. That seems like a pretty strong component of the program to me. That there are a lot of folks out there, a lot of women out there who would choose the program if it were expanded, but then there are those who would not. And this is a part of this program is making certain that the questions are answered. And I kind of lean on something that you said, that somebody would see perhaps a friend receiving the service and say, I'd like to have that service in my home. That rung a bell for me, because you talked about referral. And when the question was asked about referral, I thought about that being a form of referral, is the referral by an actual existent patient, which is pretty powerful. Well, I'm supporting it. I have a couple of financial questions, and I'm looking at the slide that showed the 3 years. It showed the first year and the third year. And let's see. And so in the worst case scenario in the third year, there'd be a $270,000 gap. In the likely scenario, close to break even. And your staff is recommending that we move forward with this. I'm presuming that the likely scenario has been well vetted, and that you really presume that is the likely scenario.
It is as well vetted as we can project, not knowing what the acceptance of the service will be and what the actual level of productivity of nurses will be able to be, as we're kind of jaunting around a very large county, trying to get to people within their homes, which limits just the pure transit time limits sometimes the number of people you can go in and visit. However, I do think that these are good projections, and we're going to be tracking it really carefully. We're not just going to come to you and say, hey, I need $250,000. You know, we will be taking a look at the program and monitoring it, looking for alternative funding sources. And I have communicated with the team as well that every year, if we are not balanced in our general fund, if we have a structural imbalance, we will be looking at general fund programs and our opportunity to sustain all of those at the current levels that they are. And that is across the board within the county, as has happened this year. So we certainly have an understanding that we could get to a point where that conversation comes up around Family Connects or any of the other general fund programs that we have, as I am also really trying to seek funding within the FQHC to pull many of the reliance of these services on the general fund off of the general fund. So dual strategies there.
Well, that response anticipated my next question. If we do experience a $250,000 gap, what do we do? Well, you've said that it goes into the kind of the hopper with all of the other programs that we're looking at, and the viability, the results of, et cetera, are the ones that is how the future board and or budget committee would look at it. Very good. Then the last thing that I kind of caught is that we'd be ahead of the curve on this. That is to say, we anticipate that this is going to be a requirement anyway. So by doing it at this point in time, we're doing it ahead of the curve and potentially in a less impactful manner, and probably even a less expensive manner. Is that a good read-in on my part?
Yes, we're ahead of the curve in the sense, and what that also has brought with it is an investment from the state that has allowed us to come on board as early adopters. So we've gotten additional funds already through grants from the state that have allowed us to do a lot of the preparations and planning and anticipation of what this might look like. So yeah. Also, because we're not the first out the gate, although we might have been initially, we've had the opportunity to learn from those who have been first out the gate. So, and this is a national model, so there's also a lot to look to from other states that we've also.
Good. You'd anticipate that kind of question is it happening elsewhere? Can we emulate and or adapt? And then time to step into the batter's box, because I'm going to throw you a softball. Will this change lives and improve outcomes?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Seneca.
Now, it says here that current early adapters launched in 9 counties and 4 sites. Can we go into that with a little more in depth?
Sure. Yeah. I will correct, it is 10 now. I'm sorry, I should have noted that as we were going through. But can you provide more specific detail? Are you able to?
Well, I'm curious how the 9 counties and 4 sites works.
Okay, and so what that is that most of the other counties are running the program through their early childhood hub, which here is situated within the United Way. We will be only the 2nd county that runs it through the local public health authority. And that's created challenges in other locations. And I participate every few weeks in sort of a working group of other folks that are working across the state to develop this program. And when I chat with all of them, they all shared that the one site that is working within the LPHA locally has astronomically less barriers to launching, to creating these relationships than all of those that are working with the early childhood hub. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that you're providing a medical service with a registered nurse that needs an electronic health record that has all of these requirements that an early childhood hub just isn't positioned or prepared to administer. And so that's creating a lot of administrative burden on them to share all of the cost, all of the work, all of these administrative pieces between the 2 places instead of housing it all together at the LPHA. And so that's a place where we are much more strongly positioned than a lot of the other early adopters.
And I would add, our early childhood hub lent their support to our application that put us in this position to begin with. Yeah.
Gotcha, okay. And these nurses going into these homes, I'm guessing they're gonna be mandatory reporters?
I believe that under state requirement.
Every
yes.
registered nurse is a mandatory reporter, yes.
Yeah, so I wonder, I mean, that's what we want, right? That would be a great model coming into the housing, or into the houses. I am curious how, if something happens and a nurse that you let in reports something, if that's going to hinder people that are willing to accept this service.
I would defer that to a nurse, which is not me.
So, certainly the fact that educators and healthcare professionals are mandatory reporters impacts the way that some families who are fearful about reports for a variety of reasons, whether it's valid or not, interact with our systems. So that is true. And part of, I think, the attempt at providing an opportunity for service, if you want to meet in a coffee shop, if you want to meet, in a local store, whatever it is, to make that family feel comfortable to have an assessment and receive services if they are not comfortable inviting a nurse into their home is going to be an option, which can help to reduce the barriers that we face. And when there are real issues that we encounter, we will report those and ultimately put the safety of the children in our community above those relationships. But it is our intent to decrease the barriers as much as possible for people who are just fearful that we're going to look at their house and go, oh my gosh, you're raising a kid here, as opposed, where there isn't really actual abuse going on.
And I could add as well, I just want to emphasize, these programs are universally offered, not universally required. So it's always an invitation. Folks voluntarily choose to have the services provided to them. So they're inviting folks in if they want. They're declining if they choose not. And we do carry a responsibility once we're in that space, of course, and we will attend to that. But ultimately, I just want to reemphasize, I mean, our nurses are professionals who've done this for a very long time. They're really relationship-based and strengths-based, and their really intent is to work closely with families to help them be successful, to be even more successful than they might otherwise be. So that's where we come from, as a place of strength and opportunity. It's never their intent to be in a home to seek out, to penalize or or do otherwise with the family, so.
Yeah, I overall, I really like the idea, I like the model. You know, it's brings up a lot of anxiety when you have a newborn and you have to go somewhere, let alone go into this medical clinic and, you know, please don't cry, please don't, which of course they're going to. So, I mean, I really like the idea of it, but I do have some reservations. You know, I think about the safety of our nurses going into some of these places that we're not certain about. I mean, just looking at a big picture, and all we talk about is liability now. So I do have some concerns.
And I can speak to that a little bit. You know, we already have nurse home visiting long term and we are, you know, we're working with families who face a lot of barriers. And there can be inherent risk in those environments. We do home visiting with developmental disability services and in a variety of homes. Of course, our food inspectors go out and at times encounter weapons. If someone is unhappy about what they are trying to enforce, and we are starting Mobile Crisis, which we know is a program that contains inherent risks. We do the co-responder model, which you put yourself in a lot of high-risk circumstances, even though you are with law enforcement. So I think that we have not historically demonstrated being risk averse in terms of starting these types of home visiting programs. What we do is we put policies and procedures in place to support our staff. Our leadership within Family and Child Health has a wonderful reflective supervision model where they work with the nursing staff to process the trauma that they see in the environments, which happens, I think, much more frequently than a sense of physical risk within the homes, and then processes and procedures so that if they do feel at risk, they know what to do. So those are some of the ways that we manage risks that are inherent in this type of work.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks.
Vice Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I know we're still running short on time, so I got a few brief questions. And colleagues, excellent questions. I think it's really great that each one of us come to this at a different heading to ask specific questions. Mine, Brian, and Ms. Rowe, you are talking about this business model. You're kind of launching a business that the state's mandating you to do, and you're thinking entrepreneurially, and I appreciate that. Two questions. Are the people that come into this work, you talked about the hiring team, are they more likely to be long-term providers than, say, those that come into the mental health and the drug intervention programs?
Is the question more about
your hiring team personnel? I mean, when you talked about the long-term costs, my first thought was, geez, I wonder how much turnover they're going to have and whether these people are more likely to be more stable than, say, other avenues of healthcare.
Well, it's an interesting question. I appreciate that. Currently, our staff is a long-term team. We've had very little turnover in our programs, so we have that to build off of. Of course, you're starting a new program, new processes. There's a little more risk at the beginning of the program that will have some degree of turnover, and we did build that into the modeling, so that is at least anticipated. But in the long term, we anticipate these folks are invested. Most of the folks in this profession, it's a chosen profession, and this is one of the primary places where you would do this type of care.
Yeah, great. It sounded like you did. I just wanted the public to know that. Then the other thing you talked about, like in year 3, you talked about potentially some of the costs that maybe we would have to bridge, and you'd have to come back for maybe a one-time ask to the board. So the question is, do you think those costs are more concerned on just increasing costs in general, or are they more related to personnel and billing acceptance costs?
Again, great question. I don't know if it's more of one or the other. I think those are both our risks in front of us. That changing situations that we can't anticipate related to increased costs of our personnel or inflation or whatever is going to be driving that. But also we have the additional risks of productivity. But that's the piece we can manage. So that's where we have a little more control, because we'll be monitoring that and paying attention to it and really trying to staff accordingly, not outstaff ourselves. More opportunity to reduce that risk, I think.
Well, super. I think we're in good hands. I support this program. Good job, y'all.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Commissioners. In the interest of time, I have one comment and one very quick question. The comment is it's really important to talk about destigmatizing, but to put it in the positive, it's to normalize that big life changes are stressful and people deserve support when they're under stress. And there are a few bigger stressors than bringing a new child into your home. So I think that's important. But to that, my question is, we've been talking about birthing parents. Are any of these programs available for adoptive parents?
Yes, they are. And so the program is intended for folks technically that are welcoming a new baby into their family, whether that's through birth or adoption. Sort of the requirement there is that the family will have to be a resident of Lane County and that they will have to have their visit with their Family Connects nurse scheduled before their baby is 6 weeks old. And that doesn't matter if that's a biological child, if that's an adoptive child. And the services are also available to families that are resource parents who are accepting a newborn through foster.
Great. Thank you very much. Well then, we
We're looking for a motion.
have an order in front of us, so I am ready for a motion. Yes, Vice Chair.
Yes, Chair, I'd like to move to approve to adopt the matter of accepting a grant award from the Lane Community Health Council in the amount of $500,000 and delegating authority to the county administrator to execute the award documents.
Second.
Been moved by Vice Chair and seconded by Commissioner Buck to approve the order before us. Is there any discussion to the motion?
Just a
Commissioner Farr.
clarification, the motion actually says grant twice. I'm presuming that was a typo.
I assume that was a typo.
Okay, so and the motion as printed has grant twice, but the motion as stated as single grant. That doesn't affect the motion. Good, okay, good.
Seeing no more discussion, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0, approving Order 24-04-23-07 in the matter of accepting a grant award from the Lane Community Health Council in the amount of $500,000 and delegating authority to the county administrator to execute the award documents. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Moving right along, we are at item 13, Commissioners' Business. Are there any announcements from the board today? Seeing none. Any future board assignment requests? Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to, there's been a lot of development and maneuvering for the last 25, 30 years in the Glenwood redevelopment project by Springfield. And I think Springfield is at a point where we're going to start moving some markers. So I'd like to see if we could ask for a presentation to update the board from the Springfield Economic Development Team on the Glenwood redevelopment and possibly be informed of some participation requests they may ask from the county.
Update from CEDO.
Well, just their economic development team and not specifically CETA, but yeah.
I've been following that for a day or two.
All right. Looks like head nods abound. Any other assignment requests? Seeing none, review of that one assignment.
Well, and I think I have two assignments. There was the methane capture, the history of methane at Short Mountain. I didn't see if there were head nods. It looked like there was at least one or two individuals wanting that data back. So I have two assignment requests. One is for the the history of methane capture, as well as future prognostications.
And to be specific, I asked for a short report, and if it extended into a long report, then I would go to the board for a request. I think, Mr. Rigoff, I was hoping that it's something that's already existent, that it could just be flagged.
Quite possibly is. Okay. We'll proceed with that, and then the presentation from Springfield Economic Development on Glenwood.
Can I ask, Commissioner Farr, would it satisfy that if Acting Administrator or Mokrajski asks Dan Hurley if that exists and he replies via email if it is something that exists?
Yes.
And then only bring it to us as an assignment to the board if there's more to it?
Thank you for the clarification.
Great.
That's all I have.
Thank you. All right, we do have an executive session, so I will read us in, and then I will give us a few minutes of a break to reassemble in the Board of County Commissioners conference room. The Board of County Commissioners will meet in executive session the afternoon of Tuesday, April 23rd, 2024, to consider information or records that are exempt by law from public. This executive session is held pursuant to ORS 192.6602F, which allows the Board of Commissioners to meet in executive session for the purposes listed. Representatives of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are precluded from attending. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on any of the deliberations during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. Members of the news media are not allowed to tape, video record, or otherwise record an executive session. Verbatim notes are prohibited. No decision may be made in executive session. We reserve the right to come back out into public session should the need arise. And with that, at the sound of my gavel, the regular meeting will be adjourned and we will reconvene. It is 3:05 now, let's say at 3:12. Give us 7 minutes. 5 felt too short this morning in the Board of Commissioners conference room. reconvene the regular session of the Board of County Commissioners for Tuesday, April 23rd, 2024. And we have before us just one item of business for which I will look for a motion.
Chair, thank you. As of Wednesday, April 17th, we received a resignation letter from our county council, Erin Pettigrew, with 60 days notice as per her contract. I then move that we accept the tendered resignation as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Vice Chair and seconded by Commissioner Seneca to accept the 60-day resignation of County Council Erin Pettigrew. Is there any discussion to the motion? Commissioner Buck.
Thank you, Chair. I'll start. I sincerely want to thank Council Pettigrew for all of her work that she has done at the county in her tenure. She's done a remarkable job of putting together a fantastic litigation team here and support staff. Provided some really good updates in office for efficiency, and been a fantastic county council. I am saddened to see her go, but absolutely wish her well in her future endeavors.
Commissioner Seneca.
Yes, I'd like to take a second to let Council Pettigrew know that how much we appreciated her time here at the county. And I agree with Commissioner Buck. She is going to leave us with an amazing staff. I will miss our talks of how much we both love Florida, but maybe we can convene later. Thanks, Erin.
Vice Chair.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, I would like to also echo the sentiments of the great job that Council Pettigrew did, especially coming into this position with a very scattered and shambled office and quickly and professionally put together a very accomplished and diverse team of experts that the county is now benefiting from. And I wish her all great things in her future endeavors.
Commissioner Farr.
Thank you, Chair Trieger. Two things. I would like to mention that Ms. Pettigrew, from the outset on the job, worked relentlessly to bring good talent into Lane County that really enhanced our ability to perform our legal responsibilities and duties. And additionally, we had outdated document recording systems, document management systems, and she brought in a new eye on our outdated systems and instigated new systems that will take Lane County years and years into the future in terms of efficiency and responsiveness.
Thank you. I'll echo all the comments. I think her work has been exemplary. Her the way she conducted her work, the team she assembled, and also her support of the team that stayed on, that were here when she got here, how she's just really elevated and lifted them up and supporting them and in doing their best and providing really exceptional legal services to this organization. And I just cannot appreciate enough the commitment she's shown to the work and clarity with which she communicated that work to all of us. It was a real breath of fresh air to have such excellent communication and leadership from that office from Ms. Pettigrew. So we were very fortunate to have her for the year and a half that she gave to this organization. Not seeing any further comments, we have a motion in front of us to accept the 60-day tendered resignation from County Council Pettigrew. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. We do have before us now a pending vacant position in the Office of County Council, and so we'll need to work to identify next steps, both short and mid or longer term, for filling that office. And I believe Vice Chair is ready with a motion.
Thank you, Chair. I move to authorize our County Administrator, Steve Moker-Heisky, and Chair Lori Trieger to begin to prepare a recruitment plan for the Board of County Commissioners consideration.
Second.
It's been moved by Vice Chair Lovell and seconded by Commissioner Seneca. Is there any discussion to the motion?
Just one. It's my understanding that the HR director would participate in that process.
Thank you. Yes, so amend the motion to say the chair and the administrator and his designees, because it may even
Let me
be
just restate it.
anyone from HR that is available. Is that, how flexible do you need that to be?
If he says me, I can always bring in as needed.
So amended motion to include the director of HR, does that suit?
I move to amend my motion to also include the director of the HR, Alana Holmes, or her designated appointees.
We'll second the amended motion.
Right. Any other discussion to the motion to appoint your chair to work with administrator and HR director or their designees on a recruitment plan? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you all. Is there any other business for the good of the order today? Seeing none, at the sound of my gavel, we will be adjourned until Tuesday, April 30th. Thank you all.